Guess what we're doing today? That's right, it is finally time to test my own glaze recipe, developed by me and now sold by the Clayscapes company. The glaze is named Red Lotus, and it's about time we test this on the channel. For those of you who have been with us for our recent glaze reviews, Clayscape sent us a bunch of glazes, and we have a new deal in that I sold them one of my recipes to sell to the public. So you can technically buy an Earth Nation developed glaze right now from the Clayscapes company. I will leave all those links down below, and you can save 10% if you put in the code EARTH10 at checkout. Even if you're not buying my glaze, you still get 10% off. How cool is that? Here's the thing with this type of glaze though. This is in the family as a deep iron saturated khaki red. They are notoriously difficult to make in the glaze maker space, especially at cone 6 oxidation, and it took me a very long time to develop it. And because of that, I'm very, very picky about the specific gravity and how the glaze feels, what clay it's on, the absorption rates, things of that nature. So we are going to weigh the specific gravity for any of you glaze heads out there, and we're going to be using a 60 mesh sieve because I know how this glaze operates. It says it was 10 pounds. I'm used to receiving about 5 pounds of glaze from companies, but this one said a 10-pound bag on it, so it should make close to about 2 gallons of glaze. Very, very close. I know that everyone buys glazes in this amount so that they can dip their stuff inside of buckets like this, but because they homogenize the minerals beforehand, you can technically take an amount, like a pound of this out, go ahead and sieve it through a jar, and use a good pint of this side by side. Mix this up really, really well. Fill it up to the 100-meter mark. I see air bubbles, I don't trust them. There we go. Put it back on the gram scale. Watch the numbers go, and we have 1.25. So the specific gravity of this glaze at the moment is 1.25. I personally prefer this recipe to be at specific gravity 1.35 to 1.4, but I think this is good. We're still going to test this. It doesn't come out with a lot more crystals, but it still comes out as a solid red. Let's do our porcelain one first. Let's do our porcelain mug. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're done with our base tests for about 1.25 to 1.3 specific gravity. Most companies will send me 5 pounds of glaze. This feels more like 10 pounds of, I bet if I check the box, which I did not do, this is about 10 pounds of glaze. And it's making very close to, if not more, than 2 gallons. This is a 3-gallon bucket, and we're pretty close. We're pretty close to the top there. Little texture test, if you don't mind. So there's one thing that I didn't tell you. Gonna notice it's a little bit thick. Well, there's a reason why it's so thick. And it's mainly because my recipe that I put in there includes one little extra thing that makes it a little thicker. And it acts as a brushing agent in the glaze. So not only can you dip this glaze like it was designed to, half of the amount of the chemical that most people put in whenever they want to turn a dipping glaze into a brushing glaze. Which means, technically speaking, you can brush this glaze. So for all you brushers out there, this should work just fine as a brushing glaze as well. Let's put about 4 layers on this B mix with grog bowl with some of the red Lotus and see how it reacts. It's pretty good. That's pretty thick too. You can probably see the glaze wall versus the actual clay body and how many layers I put on. I easily brushed on about 4 layers. Okay, we've let it set for about 3 hours, and now the water has done a pretty good job at separating from the recipe. So I'm going to skim some off the top and put it into another container so we can increase the specific gravity past 1.25. Because we do not need all this water. Put the scale down. Little tear action, get 100 mils. See that air bubble? See it? I hate it. Hate it.
Everything about this says exactly what I am and who I am as a person. It's my defining trait. It's beautiful.
That's what's up. Oh, I shouldn't be able to do that. But my fingers are strong. Could have told you that. Oh yeah, now it's drying properly. Now it's good. Oh, thank you. Had way too much water in it before. Way too much water. Now it's working. It's a fine line in between too much water and just enough thickness of application. Because if it's way too thick, you'll get super large cracks. But if it's just perfectly thick, you'll get very small cracks in the glaze. And that's how I like this family of glazes. And these two will be your base tests for 1.3 specific gravity. I know a lot of this is nerd glaze talk, so I'm guessing about 80% of you are like, I don't know what specific gravity is, and I don't care to learn it, just test the damn glaze on the white clay and the brown clay so I can get on with my life. But there are glaze makers out there and studio owners who actively need to know the specific gravity to make sure that their glazes are well taken care of on a consistency basis to make sure the glaze always performs the same. And those 20% are thanking the Lord right now that they watch a YouTuber that actively tests glazes and gives the specific gravity number with their test. I'm telling you, you think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, there's a group of people out there. Please shout out in the comments below who are like, "Dear Lord, he gave the specific gravity number." Yes. I might also be a little off my rocker, but that is besides the point. I am right and crazy at the same time. Okay, now that everything's out of the kiln, let's take a look. So good news and bad news. The good news is I did make a testile of the Red Lotus glaze on a B mix, both brushed and dipped. The bad news is that I broke the testile, but even though it's broken, it still came out pretty good. It still makes a really good red in cone 6 oxidation, regardless of whether you're getting these kind of crystally drips down here or not. But what people mostly want are these crystally drips from the glaze. And then this up here, people are like, oh, I'll do with this. I guess this is red, but most people don't want this. The good news is I made a second testile, and it came out exactly the same, except for I just dipped it with less time so it didn't drip. The key is that you want this glaze to drip a little bit, but you don't want it to drip so much that it runs off the shelf, which it will do at a strong cone 7. This is a pretty strong, a pretty hot cone 6. And I got essentially the same results as I got on here. This one just dripped a little bit more. But this is a pretty good result. So here's the thing about these types of glazes. If I were to toot my own horn for a second, a deep iron saturated khaki tomato red and cone 6 oxidation is relatively hard to develop if you don't have somebody giving you the actual answers. Like, unless you know how to read the UMF and you know molar amounts, unless somebody gives you a piece of paper that says, hey, these molar amounts with this flux ratio, with this amount of heat and XYZ and this much iron and blah, 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 should work. If you have no one behind your back supporting you in that way, it's really difficult to think about what it is on your own. You're just going to think about all the things that make red in the ceramic art world and just go on a year-long journey, which is essentially how I developed this glaze. Now at the moment, if you glaze this poorly, if you do like a 3-second dip and you do the wrong specific gravity and you don't have your viscosity tuned in, or you use the wrong amount of water, or even if you're one of those people who like washes off their bisque with water before you dip it, which decreases the amount of capillary suction before you get into the glaze, which will in turn decrease the amount of minerals you put, which are the thing that make the glaze on your pot, then you're essentially going to get brown if you do that. That's what happens if you do it horribly. If you do it bad, it turns red. If you do it really, really good, if you do it perfectly, really good, proper clearance, proper heat and everything, you'll essentially get a product that looks like this. This is a more crystallized version of a deep iron saturated khaki red. This is what I developed the glaze to do, but unless you apply it really well, it essentially won't do this. If you get these kind of results, you know you've glazed it correctly. You see these little bursts of iron crystals in here? That's why I called it Red Lotus, because if you do it just right, if you have the experience and you test and you have the knowledge to do it, you can make little blossoms of red. Do keep in mind that this is the result that I go for every time. I know plenty of people are happy with this, because it's hard to find this clarity of a red in cone 6 oxidation with basic glaze, not using mason stains or not using any tricks or like tin chrome red or anything like that in the first place. Just straight up iron and glaze. But if you do it alright, it should turn red. If you do it perfectly, it should turn it into a crystallized glaze. But if you do it poorly, and I mean really poorly, like you actively are sabotaging it, you should get something that looks akin to this almost all of the time. That's what I want. See that? Yeah, I bet you do. I want that all the time. I tell you though, when I got this out of the kiln, you know that song, The Good Stuff, that country song, which is one of the 3 that I like in the world? I was singing that. No, don't argue with me in the comments below. There's only 3 good country songs in the world. It's The Good Stuff, Don't Take the Girl, and Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. And just for bonus points, I actually did 2 different testiles, one at 1.2 specific gravity and one at 1.3 specific gravity, just to see the difference in application, and I got some pretty good results. If you look here at 1.3 specific gravity, or you put the right amount of water in it rather in your glaze, you'll get a really good standard red. This is on frost porcelain. And it almost always comes out a standard red like this. But at 1.2 specific gravity, if you leave it alone a little bit, if you do it right, if you apply it correctly and change things around and do a little bit experimenting, you get that copper. But the trade-off is, look, right there, I didn't get as much of the glaze on the testile. And you can really see there's some spots where, okay, well, I didn't get the glaze I wanted, but when it ran into these little crystals, which is great. Now I did this difference in experimentation between 1.3 and 1.2 specific gravity because all of the tests that I ran were basically the same thing. Here's 1.3. Here's 1.2. I find that mine works best at 1.25 specific gravity. And, you know, and if you don't know what that is, you can very easily find a video online from Ceramic Material Workshop, or I'll even make a video for you. It takes me like 5 minutes to make it, but I'm pretty sure the Ceramic Material Workshop has a free one that I will leave in a link down below. It's really just the difference in how much water versus the minerals that make the glazes, realistically. And the reason I'm showing you these two is because I did so many tests at 1.3, and then 1.2, and then 1.2, and then like 1.3 I did right here, and then I did another one at 1.2, and then I did another one at where'd it go? 1.3. And I have so many tests to show you. So this is gonna be a long haul. Don't look at my matcha soy California soy boy latte. Don't look at it. With all of that fluff out of the way, this is your Red Lotus test style on a B mixed with grog clay body at 1.25 specific gravity, fired to cone 6. That's pretty good. I'll take that. Granted, it looks a lot more coppery than it does red, but when I developed the glaze, I tried to get like right in the middle of like, okay, if you add a little more water, it'll turn coppery, but if you take away the water, it'll turn more red, but it will run more, and if it runs, it creates crystals. So there's definitely a balance you have to play with in making sure that you have the right amount of water in the glaze, because that will really decide the density of the minerals in comparison to the water or the standard. And this is a really good result. This is what I wanted the first time. I wanted this. This is at a low 6. This is technically what a lot of people would consider 6, but it didn't reach a hotter 6 like I enjoy. Now, if you look at the red test style here, this is the same exact kiln load. The only difference is this is actually a black clay body. This is not a redstone clay body like we usually see on the channel. You see, here's the keynote with this. Any red clay body or any even black clay body, which is what this is right now, this is actually the night clay from the IMCO company. They do a banger job at making a black clay body that doesn't bloat. It'll still turn red. It will still turn red, if not some variation of red, but there's generally either more iron or some manganese inside of darker or black clay bodies like this. And so stuff like this, I am pretty happy that I even got the color red to begin with in comparison to this copper that I got. Because most of the time, whenever you switch to a black clay body with the same glaze, you just get brown. I'm pretty happy with getting a good standard red from this at the same time. So these are your both white and black clay bodies. Do I have a red one? I have to have a red one somewhere, right? I wouldn't not make a red one. That's standard on the channel that we always do white and red. Here is Red Lotus from Clayscapes on a redstone clay body. That is a pretty good result on a red clay body. As I've always said on the channel, I love when a glaze works on multiple different clay bodies and gives me either consistency or some form of the glaze that's akin to its white counterpart. So, you know, we have it here on black clay, pretty good, a little darker. We have it here on red clay, we have it a little bit lighter, right? But on white clay, it works just fine. And keep in mind that this is B-mixed with grog. This is not the most illustrious porcelain clay body. So we have consistency here, at least in 3 different forms, which is fantastic for the glaze, I think. I know, I'm saying it like I'm not the one who didn't develop it, but I'm pretty happy with this. Keep in mind there's one note, I didn't sieve this all that well like I should have. I sieved it maybe twice during the video instead of the 3 times, and mixing it around very well. I mixed it maybe like a minute maximum all the way down to the bottom, and I could have definitely mixed it better. And so every now and then I go over the camera and I'm seeing these little dots, and I think some of you who might not really know how to diagnose it better see like this, and you might think that's pitting. That's not pitting, that's actual little dots of material in clay from the maker of the glaze, not sieving it all the way, because he's a dingus, which would be me. That would be me. Now come the ones I really wanted you to see, because we have it on B-Mix, and we had it on a redstone clay body, and we had it on the night clay body, the black clay body, and they all did pretty well. They give me a standard red in oxidation, which is fantastic. But the thing that you haven't seen yet is the porcelain testile, and that one is pretty dang good. This one was more of the texture and porcelain testile, and you can definitely see in the dragon scales that wherever it didn't really get to attach itself, or there was too much texture, it turned a little bit brown. But whenever it got running a little bit, and let's see if I can find a tiny bit of it, it started to crystallize. If I would have just been a bit more careful with my application, I definitely could have gotten this to actually run into crystals. Oh, that's the spot right there. That's what I'm talking about. If I could get that all over the entire pot, I'd be happy as a pig. I can't say that. It's on YouTube. I'd be happy as a pig. The inside is difficult to record, but I'm getting a much more standard crystallized red on the inside. If you can see down there, I'm getting consistent crystals on the inside of this glaze wherever it's applied correctly, which is to say that it's thick, it's just not oversaturated. Look at that. But I don't want to give you the best representation of the glaze and assume it's going to be like that all the time. I feel like that's cheating you a bit. You know, whenever you see those chip walls at clay conventions and in stores and whatnot, those are the best representations that they can come up with online and on chip walls in the stores. They've made dozens of those and they've picked out the ones that represent what they want the most. I don't want to show that to you only and then be like, it comes out like this all the time. Now this next one that you're going to see is a bit different, and you are going to see it twice probably within 1 month. I got a couple of messages of people saying the glaze isn't working for them. It keeps turning brown. They show me pictures. And I'm like, I didn't make it to do that. If you're following all my instructions, you should be okay, right? And so for, I think it was 2 or 3 people, I'm not going to say their names, I watched them glaze. And there's a weird phenomenon going on in the world where people will take their pot and take a damp sponge and they'll rinse it off like this with water, and they'll introduce water into the capillaries of the pot, right? But we need those to be nice and thirsty. We can't fill those up, otherwise the glaze won't fully transfer over. It's a bit deeper than that, but that's a pretty good explanation. And so what I've done is I've made a couple of testiles of me taking a pot like this is B-Mix of Grog, and taking the glaze that I'm showing you, Red Lotus, and wiping off, right? And then I wait 2 minutes and I dip the entire thing. Here's the difference. If you are wiping your bisque off beforehand, you're introducing water to the capillaries, I just call them pores now, of the clay body. And you can kind of only absorb so much into the bisque pores before they become full. But glaze is just minerals suspended in water. You're getting less minerals because the bisque can't soak up as much water because you've already introduced water into the bisque or the pores. So what you generally have is this brown, gross color that the glaze is not meant to come out of. The reason I'm showing you this testile in specific isn't to show you, oh no, I got a bad result. Half of this I wiped off with water. The other half, I did not. And I got far superior color. I even got some, what most people would call microcrystals, but that's not the proper terminology. These are still the little red iron crystals. I got some really strong color in comparison. And we did this twice, technically, because we did it on this side, and then it happened again on this side, because I only wiped off the side of the pot that is furthest from the handle. So this side had no water introduced to it, while this one did. If you're getting this kind of result right here, stop wiping your bisque off with water. You will get much better color. You will have glazes work for you that never worked before, I promise you. I don't know who started this, but I am tempted to make an entire YouTube video about I'm just going to splay out like 4 tests in front of you and show you, here are glazes that I've wiped off with water and saturated. Here are some that I have not, and this side always has better color, hand over hand. But the reason I'm showing you this pot moreover is to show you the direct correlation between what happens when you introduce water into your bisque pores before you glaze. You want to see a really gross testile? While I was making the testile that I showed you before, I actively just dropped one of these in water and then glazed with red lotus on that pot just to see the difference. I just wanted to see if my theories are correct, because it's a big rumor in the clay world that you have to wipe. And I might be going on a rant here. It's a big rumor in the clay world that you should be introducing water by wiping off your bisque before glazing. And so I thought, hey, let's take that to the extreme. Let's just dump one of these testiles in water for a good minute and then immediately start glazing with it. And yeah.
Oh, that's nasty. Oh,
Same glaze.
So nasty.
Yup. Yup. This is the extreme version of that. There's probably a limit. You're probably getting okay colors from some really good standard glazes, like the Amico line. Celadons are really good. They kind of don't care about that, but I'm telling you, you will decrease the amount of minerals you get on your pot if you introduce water to your bisque, and this is the extreme version. Okay, I'm sorry Dad yelled at you. I love you. I packed your lunch. I put high-grade iron in there, because I know that's your favorite, sweetie. The two that I've found very interesting from this test were the two combos. This is red lotus and floating blue. This is my handmade recipe. It's just catching all of the light. I'm actually going to call this a failure combo. I'm going to say floating blue and this red do not go very well together. You can see on the inside it's just all red, on the outside I did a quick dip in the blue. It didn't run or anything. It's a perfect glaze line. It's just it's not appealing to me. It's just this weird matte gray with hints of blue. It looks like Randy's red if you did it wrong. That's what it looks like. It looks like Randy's red. But here is the one your mom is going to buy from my website at earthnationceramics.com. This is red lotus with Dantes Lumos on top. This is about 5 layers. That is what's up. That is a combo right there. We had a little bit of drippage right there, but we can take that off, no problem. Tiny bit of drippage, but otherwise it came out really, really good. And this isn't even, okay, are you ready? I'm about to talk mess about myself. This isn't even a good cup either. This is just a basic mug with like a bit of a swirly pattern, maybe to catch texture in the middle. Not a good cup. Not a good cup. It's a very, very basic cup to me now. This is just a basic handle, basic cylinder that has a little bit of a bowed out stomach. This is the most boring thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But the glaze! Keep in mind, everything I just showed you is at 1.25 specific gravity. I would do viscosity, because I know there's some people right now who are wondering about that, who are watching the channel. But I do my viscosity measurements in a Zahn cup, so I give my numbers by seconds. And most of you are using hydrometers. So I'm almost never going to give that to you. Plus, out of all the people who are buying powdered glazes, and I know I'm going on a lot of rants this time, but out of all the people who buy powdered glazes, I expect almost 0 of you to know how to weigh your specific gravity, to know how to weigh in your viscosity, Epsom salt solution versus your Darvan, and how many drops to add if you want a certain application. I don't expect you guys to know any of that. Your instruction should come by mixing a certain amount of water, and at most you should weigh specific gravity if you know how to do that. So I'm not going to include all the super big numbers, and I can't expect the customers to do that either. That's a reach. If you knew how to do that stuff, you probably already have your own slew of recipes that you apply to, that you like in your gambit. So you're not buying other people's glazes if you already know how to do that. You're probably at the level in which you know how to make your own glazes. Now there was one test that I was particularly proud of, and that I took a little bit of water out and I put it up to 1.3 specific gravity. And this glaze came out beautifully. I mean, I got crystals almost all the way through on this gorgeous texture. just crystals all over, all over, all over. Iron crystals, iron crystals. Here's the thing though, if you put it at 1.3 specific gravity and you don't make sure you overglaze, it will run. This thing definitely run. It's on a dragon fruit clay body as well, which is rare, because getting crystals on dragon fruit clay body is difficult for me if I don't apply it right. So the fact that I got them on here is a little bit rare, but this is a beautiful texture. Throughout this entire review, you have not seen a single one that's brushed, and so you haven't seen any brush strokes, because I dip everything. And this is kind of how you get that consistency that a lot of people are looking for if you're not a master brusher. I did have one testile that I brushed on, and it still came out really good. In fact, this is the brushed on testile. This is beam mixed with grog. And weirdly enough, it came out a little bit better when I brushed it on. And I think it's just because I was allowed to apply so much more dense material in one area. But again, the problem with brushing is that you lose material as you stroke. So you get a blotch of it, and then as you go along, you lose material. Of course, as anyone who brushes will tell you, the difficulty with brushing is that number one, you get brush strokes. If you don't have like a super melty glaze, it just doesn't cover them. And number two, what often happens is that you'll start in one space, and as you go along, you'll lose material, you know? So you end up dipping your glaze, and you brush, and from here you have density of material. So you have a lot of material, you have a lot of glaze, a lot of mineral making that glaze. But as you brush, you're losing it. And then some people turn it over because there's more on the other side. But in between these two spots here, you have density of material, it's kind of streaking. And then you have density of material, and then it's kind of streaking. I don't get that very often because I dip. That I made sure that this glaze is technically brushable. Although I do want to state, it is not as brushable as something as a bottled glaze. You're really going to have to be good at brushing. You had better be on your P's and Q's. I also wanted to test the limits of how much this would run. And while it looks disgusting, this is a pretty good result. Mainly because I just put like 6 coats all around the inner rim right here, just to see how much it would run. I didn't glaze the inside other than the lip right here, and it ran a pretty good amount. But again, I'm getting these beautiful crystals regardless. This here is clearly too many layers. You can see it's 5 or 6 layers. But on the outside, if you do it correctly, and you glaze properly, because it really is about application game, you get this. And this is this is what you want every time. I'll throw that one away now. Bye, Samantha. It feels a bit weird to do this glaze review because at the end of a glaze review, I often give my opinion about the glaze, and I want to be as honest as I can. So I'm going to try and be as transparent and honest, even though I'm the one who developed this glaze for Clayscapes, with you. I think that if you glaze incorrectly, like we had talked about with the water thing on your bisque, like washing off your bisque, you will ultimately get brown every single time. If you glaze okay, you'll probably get a standard red color with a little bit of crystallage, like this, because that's what it's developed as. This is a pretty average result for the glaze. Even if you mess up, as long as you mix the glaze really well and you do a good 3-second dip, you should have a fairly stable, fairly standard kind of oxidation, iron saturated khaki red. And this is what you're aiming for most of the time. This color here is what you ought to be getting as long as you apply the stuff correctly, because application does matter. In fact, it matters with all glazes. My glaze here is just finicky with it, which is the reason why I'm being so kind of ham-fisted with make sure you apply your stuff correctly. If you do it well, if you do it very well, you should get a result that's akin to this. You should be getting iron crystals like this. So at worst, you'll get brown if you do it very wrong and on purpose. At least, you'll get a good red, and at most, if you do it right, you should get a very good red Lotus iron crystal glaze. Here's my suggestion for anyone who wants to apply this glaze correctly, because when you get a powdered glaze, putting the amount of water in there is really up to you. So if you put too much water, you're going to get less mineral as a consequence of that. So you should have the proper amount of water. For anyone who knows how to weigh specific gravity, you should have it at 1.25 specific gravity. You need to be mixing it for quite some time, probably a minute with your mixer. I mean, you should be doing that with every glaze to the bottom of the bucket anyway, but it really matters here. And you should be doing a good old 2.5 to 3 second dip. If you do all of those things, you will get results akin to this. Well, thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today for the review of Red Lotus. I know I'm the one who developed this glaze, but if anyone bought this glaze off rip during the Ensika weekend, I really want to thank you. The company told me they made 500 pounds of it, and I think within 3 days, like 400 pounds, or near 400 pounds of it sold. And you can buy it in 5, 10, 20, and I think like 50-pound increments. It was free shipping that weekend. Plus, we have a code with them. If you go to Clayscapes and you put in the code EARTH10 at checkout, you get a 10% discount, I think, on any of the glazes. I don't even think it has to be my glaze. I think it's just all the glazes. We'll link all that stuff down below for you. Remember to click all the YouTube buttons because this is a very large milestone for me. I mean it from the bottom of my heart, and I know a lot of this video has been kind of ranty and picky, but if I were to kind of drop the for a while, I really do mean it. If you bought some of my glaze, this was a year-long process that my patrons and my supporters have really been behind me through. From the day that I said I'm going to develop a glaze like this, they've just believed in me, except for one person, and that person is the reason I did it, because if you wouldn't have made fun of me, I probably wouldn't have developed the glaze. Look who's laughing now, Mom!
Thank you for your patronage.
Capillary suction? Wish I had me some capillary suction right now. You know what I'm saying? Know what I mean? That's not appropriate.